Lev, you're saying that it was your birthday, so the 2nd of February is your birthday, and Brent showed you Hosana and his sister Shongile, that sunrise game drive of ours in the morning, and that is how you remembered it because it's also your birthday. So thank you so much. So if that's when Brent first saw them, then they would have been already... Oh no, Karula used to bring out her cubs super early. So they were probably anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months. I'm gonna hold my breath and wait for you guys to tell me exactly, but I think I'm remembering correctly that Tristan said that they brought them out super early. Karula was super relaxed with them, and at 2 months maybe. Oh, very cool. So Nikki's just saying, if she can remember correctly, that she thinks that what had happened was we saw Karula pregnant, and then Brent found her den and managed to see a little visual of the cub, and that was the first visual, and that was the 2nd of February. So that would have been sort of anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks, and then the area was zoned, and then we saw them several weeks after that. All right, thanks everybody. It's nice for me to know these things, but it's also nice to remember our community keeps growing. So we've had quite a few new viewers that are popping up the past couple of days, and now they're getting on board with how much we all love Safari Live, and part of that is the characters that we have and their lives and following them. He's a very sleepy young man. The temperature has just dropped by several degrees, and it's not as humid as it was, and I can actually smell rain. So it's not raining by us. You smell that, Ferg? I don't know how to describe the smell of rain. I especially don't know how to describe, if you've never been to Africa or you're not physically sitting in Africa at the moment, the smell is different. So the only other thing I can equate it to, if there's any of you that are living in New Mexico or Arizona, or even possibly somewhere like Colorado, when you have those hot, very dry summer days, and you are in an area with that red soil, that iron soil, and you start to get that rain coming through, and it hasn't quite hit you yet, and so it's still hot and dusty, and then the rain's falling, and the breeze, that cool sharp breeze, starts coming through, and you get that very distinct smell of moisture. That's what it smells like in Africa. It's still not the same, but that is close as I can possibly get you to it. And gorgeous Ferg. Brandon, you'd like to know, when will Husana start to mate? So Husana is still a bit young. If Husana's mom hadn't passed on, he would just start being independent from her from sort of nowish until, a couple of months from now. And only then start trying to figure out where he wants to be in the world, and if there's a spot for him to stay around here, or if he needs to push off and become an adult male leopard somewhere else. It's all dependent on the other male territories that are around. But because his mom passed away when he was a lot younger, he has stayed in a lot of her natal territory and has started coming of his own in that area, and is very comfortable. Ooh, your little head's up. And started becoming comfortable there. Now, normally, he would only start mating sort of 4 years old or older. But I have a feeling, because he's had to do everything a lot younger than normal, that it's possible that he'll start doing... Ooh, that is gorgeous, everybody. My thought for... There's the yawn. My thought for where I wanted to move for you all for screenshots. Unfortunately, the other vehicle's still there. But this is absolutely gorgeous, and I don't think we are going to miss much. Okay, you're going to go around to the other side. With him doing that, I'm then going to reposition us to the other side of the termite mound. Alright, while I'm busy repositioning for all of you, I think let's head back over to Scott and see what he's up to.
I am not up to a whole bunch at the moment, just hoping and thinking about where Thandi is hiding her little cub. We've kind of lost track of her movements over the last few days, and essentially her den could be just about anywhere at this stage of the game. And I'm hoping we're gonna get lucky and find her, and once we found her, hopefully she'll take us to wherever she has that little cub stashed. But it's tricky going, especially now that the roads are quite hard after the rain last night, or yesterday rather. So it's not going to be easy to find her tracks. We're literally going to have to bump into her in order to find her, or possibly bump into some of her prey. Hello Nyala. Two young males here, and I'm sure their mothers aren't too far away. They are going to turn into some of the most beautiful antelope I think we get here in the Lowveld. A dark chocolate brown. There's a little red-billed oxpecker on the closer one, and it's interesting, the closer one that's slightly larger you can see is a slightly darker shade of brown to the smaller one, so it's already heading towards its adult coloration. They really are such beautiful antelope. I love their tails. Chook! Very fluffy at the top and very thin at the bottom. Craig, you're wondering if all the animals have had a big night and slept in. Well, it appears that could be the case. Maybe they got their calendars mixed up and had their New Year's party last night. I'm kind of contemplating for our New Year's party whether we should just turn our clocks back a couple of hours so we can get the whole process over and done with sooner rather than later, because if we do stay up until midnight, it is not going to leave us much time to sleep. But that would be cheating, of course. So we are in a bit of a moral dilemma with regards to what to do this evening. And Craig, you're wondering exactly what we've got planned other than the possibility of turning our clocks back a couple of hours. We intend on having a barbecue out at a kind of outdoor braai site, or barbecue. We call barbecues braais here in South Africa. And there's a kind of venue on the southern edge of the quarantine clearings close to our camp where we intend to have a barbecue and a fire and have our celebrations out there. So those are our plans, weather permitting. There's a 40% chance of rain this evening, we are told, so that may put a dampener on things. But it's too soon to panic, so we'll just take it as it comes. If we need to have our celebrations in camp, so be it. If not, though, we will have a beautiful location, and with the moon as big as it is at the moment, it's not quite full. I think it'll be full in about 4 or 5 days. There's a whole bunch of natural light at the moment. There will be shadows cast from the trees, and it'll be a beautiful scene if in fact the weather is clear. So hopefully the weather's good. We've got a couple of crew members coming back early to help boost our numbers for the party, which I think is very sporting of them. VM and Louise, bless you, Senzo. VM and Louise will be coming back a day early to join in the festivities. So, here's a beautiful big male. Let's take a look at him so that you can have a comparison between the younger males and this big guy. Bless you again. PT Watcher, you wondering what is the difference between an Inyala and a kudu? Well, a kudu's far bigger. They are all part of the spiral-horned antelope family, though. Kudu are the biggest here in South Africa, then Inyala, then bushbuck. And as I just said, their horns kind of spiral from their skull out towards the tips. So the kudu's horns are more of a corkscrew shape when they're fully grown, and almost about twice the size of an Inyala, maybe not that big, maybe 1.5 times the size of an Inyala, but fairly similar looking. The kudu will also have the vertical white stripes, not as dark of a coat and not as prominent orange socks that the Inyala have. Haven't seen many kudu around, or at least not many kudu bulls. I don't think I've seen one big kudu bull. There have been a few youngsters that I've seen since I've been back, but no big ones, sadly. Very good. Unach, you'd like to know if wild dogs are around? Well, not that we know of. If we knew of that, we would definitely have kept you guys in the loop, and we'd be racing around whap, like this. There's wild dogs! But sadly, that's not the case. There'd be a very different tempo about things if we had any clue of where they were. I think yesterday they were out to the west of our property. They just moved such big differences, Unach, that it's difficult to know where they are, unless of course we've got a radio call from one of the surrounding properties, and or if we find fresh tracks of them. But it seems fairly quiet this morning, not too many people are out on safari, and the people that are out on safari are all on other properties. I literally think I'm the only person driving around Djuma, which doesn't help our cause greatly, because it means we are a one vehicle team. If we had 20 vehicles driving around here, I'm fairly certain somebody would have found something interesting by now, but the catch is that then there would be 20 people that all want to go and look at it. So it's this interesting kind of toss-up between having too many vehicles on a property, therefore causing a lot of traffic and pressure to leave sightings, versus being out on your own sim like we are today and having no help. But then if we find something, we'll have it all to ourselves. Cats in Tampa, you are wondering how the dwarf mongoose of Djuma are doing, and there's multiple excuse me, families that live in and around Djuma, all of which appear to be fine and well. We obviously just haven't been stopping for them very much, so if I do see any out and about, I'll be sure to stop and spend some time with them for you. I walk in the rain, you're wondering how the baby gnu's are doing, Sputnik and Footloose and their cousins. I'm guessing they're okay. Also haven't had a close head count or spent too much time with them over the last few days, so not entirely sure. Not entirely sure on their movements and or status at the moment. So my plan is to continue to invest as much time in the area where we guess Thandi might have a den, somewhere off to the right of us in a little riverbed, in the hope that we bump into her. So those are my plans, and your plans will be to head back to a leopard that has already been located in the form of Hosana.
Scott, I hope you have better luck this morning than we did for the first sort of hour in the area where we think she is. I didn't pick up any tracks, but I'm hoping maybe she was just resting inside wherever her den was and that she pops out for you now. She did do that the other day. Ferg and I did our first little bit there and then nothing, and then she popped out a little bit later in the morning, so I am crossing fingers and holding thumbs for you. Now, we have moved around to the other side of the termite round. He's moved so that the background that I like so much with the slate gray is not there, but we have really gorgeous up-close visuals of a little tick under his eye and just of a nice little sleeping leopard here. He really has no care in the world. Looking very well fed, healthy, happy. One thing I really like about Husana, because his mom was such a relaxed female, is that he's inherited a lot of that, even though he's raised himself up quite a bit. So his personal bubble and how he reacts with us is very different from a lot of the other leopards that you'll see out here. He reminds me very much of a young female that I was working with earlier in the year, who used to walk through the lodge that I was at, literally right next to you. She couldn't have cared less. And he's quite similar. He just sees you wholly as part of the natural environment, but not as something that can injure him, and also not something that he wants to eat. Humans walk on two legs, and we have binocular vision similar to a predator. Our eyes sit in front. So we are quite tall and imposing, and then that, as well as the fact that we have predator vision. Sometimes predators can't quite figure out what we are and what we're on about, and leopards being quite intelligent, and this male being intelligent and comfortable with us, he's just decided that he understands exactly what we are and what we're on about, and has no issue with any of it. And I fully enjoy that. I had a couple of times recently where I've had to get out of the vehicle and track him a little bit on foot in between segments just to see where he was, and he gets so curious. He stops and he just watches you once you find him, and he looks at you, and it's not in a oh my goodness, I'm going to run away or I'm going to rev you sort of way. He's just honestly curious about everything that you're doing. Trying to see if we can get these red-breasted swallows to perch themselves a little bit so that you can have a look, but they are too busy hunting. Jeanette, you'd like to know if I think the ants bite him while he's lying there. If they were biting him and he could feel it, he would definitely react to it, just like when the flies bite him. So no, I think they're just crawling around him and not really that fussed. Depends on what species of ant it is as well. And then the termites that are inside of the mound aren't going to pop out and come and bite him either. Although it is still cool enough for us to see some termite activity. I'm not seeing any outside this mound at the moment. We have another vehicle that will be joining us in our sighting here, so excuse the noise. I'm just going to let him position himself. Maritza, you're saying you just want to take the ticks off from his eyes, but then he'll eat you. I don't think he'll eat you, Maritza. He doesn't see you as food, but I do think he would probably give you a good whack, that's for sure. Or even before you even got up close enough, he would probably move away and go, no, that's a bit much. He sees something. I'm not quite seeing what he sees, but his eyesight and angle is better than mine. Might be an impala, might be Nyala. Oh, there's a hornbill. There's a hornbill that's landed in a thick tree over there that's caught his attention. That's the only thing I can see at the moment. Julia, you're keen to know how many types of big cats are in Africa. We have 3 of the 8 worldwide. We have leopard, we have lion, and we have cheetah, Julia. Ugh, and then he puts his face behind the grass. Alright everybody, unfortunately this is going to have to be the last little bit that we have with him. The other game drive vehicles have gotten out and about with their guests, and there are a few more people who want to come and and see him. And so we need to share and be obliging. And I think we've done well with a few segments. And although he's been sleepy, he did do a bit of a scratch and a stretch and a yawn. So we're going to say goodbye to him now. And then Ferg and I are going to carry on, and maybe we get lucky and find another leopard. Maybe some lions pop up, or maybe, just maybe, our elephants come back, and really holding thumbs and crossing fingers that the buffalo come back. So thank you, Hosana. It's been epic as always. Guide Monkey, you'd like to know what the overlap in territory is between lions and these leopards? It's full, Guide Monkey. So their territorial boundaries are not for other predators. It's for other members, other individuals of the same species. So there's full overlap between different predator species. All right, everyone. We are going to head off. And while we're moving out, let's head on over to Scott. So let's see what he is up to and give you a little bit of an update.
Well, we've got some exciting news. Firstly, we weren't the only people driving around Djuma. I was wrong in assuming that. Somebody has found a kill up in a tree, not too far from where we are. And that is where we are heading. But what's interesting is that there is no sign of the leopard. Copy, confirm what side of the road you're on. West of the road that I was driving down. I think the person who's giving us directions isn't a guide, he's just a landowner, so he may not know exactly where he is, which is fair enough on this cloudy day. Ah, very good. How on earth did they spot that up there? They did very well. Very, very well. Jeez. Okay. Now, let's just wait to get into position. It's going to be a little bit bumpy as we get into position. I wonder if this wasn't Angama maybe that made the kill, or who it could have been. Maybe Shadow made the kill and has gone back to collect not Barbara, her daughter. Morning. Well done. Who spotted it up there? That's a really good spot. So everyone, as you can see, there is a steenbok in its entirety draped over the branches of this tree. Now, it appears that it hasn't been fed on at all, which is quite interesting. And it could mean a couple of things. Whoever made the kill may have another kill stash somewhere. If it was in fact Tundi the leopard we are hoping in finding, she may have been back or on her way back to her den from one kill and then stumbled upon this opportunity, made it and stashed it. That would be kind of the most logical explanation in my mind. You can see on the fur towards the back end there where the leopard's actually been licking a lot of that fur off to remove it, getting ready for breakfast. But it appears like not even a mouthful has been had. The other people who found this steenbok very skillfully, I'm still amazed by the fact that it was spotted so far from the road. And they've had a look around and they seem to think that not even a morsel has been fed on. So I think what we're going to need to do is do a little bit of a stakeout here and just sit and wait patiently to see who in fact is responsible for making the kill. The reason why it could be a number of different leopards is that we're not too far away from the Djuma waterhole here. It's probably only about a quarter of a mile to our north. Tingana would have walked straight past this area last night if he had have continued in the direction he was last seen heading in on the dam cam. And it could be him, and it could be one of two females. Both Shadow and Tundi, two sisters, are busy trying to work out whose turf this is. It's been recently vacated by their mother and therefore opened up a gap for them to acquire more territory, and they're both kind of competing with one another. So I think that would be my logical kind of theories. Tundi, on her way from one kill back to the den, may have snaffled this guy, or Shadow may have made the kill and then headed straight back to collect not Barbara, her daughter, in order to bring her back here. So those are my two theories at the moment. It's unlikely that Tundi will be collecting the cub to bring it back here to feed on, because that cub is still far too young. And Sky, you were wondering if that was an option. Not likely in my opinion, but Tundi has been doing some strange things. The fact that she has been bringing kills, at least on 2 occasions, back to her den sites and feeding on them there is definitely against the norm. So maybe, if we're lucky, she will keep coming, but hard to be certain. Sens is just pointing out that the people next to us have got a flat tire. Not too flat, but fairly flat. So they're going to have to sort that out. It's always a bit of a mission when you get a flat tire out on safari, but it is a reality, especially here up in the Masai Mara. It's less of a problem because there's less spines and hard branches where we off-road up there, but sure, it can happen quite often. Tristan, you ask a question that I hope one day comes true, but I've yet to ever see an elephant pulling a kill nor a leopard out of a tree. And we did have a sighting not very long ago, very recently actually, of a elephant, or two actually, almost walking underneath Shadow with her Daika kill. Tundi was also on the scene. I am almost certain that the elephants would have sensed that there was a kill there, but just didn't really get worked up, which I found interesting. And on a few occasions we've had elephants walk under kills. Some of you may remember a kill that Kruger had on the quarantine clearings. She had a baby impala kill that she hoisted up into a tree that an elephant walked right underneath. Actually, I think a herd of elephants. That was just before I left in 2016. What I want to do is just drive around this kill quickly and see if we can't get a view of the rear end. Joy in Hong Kong, you're wondering how high do you think the kill is up in the tree, and it's probably around 4 or 5 meters up in the tree. Now, I assumed wrong by taking those people's advice on the fact that it's been fed on or not. It clearly has been fed on. One back leg is missing. So the leopard had a decent feast here. And still lots of food to be eaten. So hopefully it is Tundi, and now we have got a great opportunity to do a stakeout until she comes back, until she's fed enough, and until she then will hopefully take us back to her den. So it looks like I've got my plans cut out for the day. I will be doing an all day long stakeout because we really do need to get to the bottom of where that den is. Proud cat mama, you'd like to know what is the favorite part of the kill for a leopard? Well, usually 9 times out of 10 they start at the rear end, and the reason for that, I guess, is because it is probably the favorite parts and easiest parts of the kill to feed on. The biggest muscles, the hind legs, are the area that they like to start feeding on, and I guess there's also easy entrance points because of the soft skin in and around the back legs and the rump. So I think those are definitely the kind of starting points and therefore tastiest points, but they will also enjoy feeding on the organs, no doubt, because they're going to be soft and very easy to consume. Julia, you'd like to know if they get hairballs from licking all the fur, and you can see quite a lot of the fur missing from the coat of the steenbok. They ordinarily will probably get fur balls more from the ingestion of the fur when they actually chew on little bits of it. When they lick the fur off, they tend to spit it out. They kind of roll their tongue against their top set of teeth, thus getting most of the fur off their tongue. So I think, yeah, not so much from the licking. I think that's a preventative measure. You can see there's lots of ants that are making the most of all of the minerals and nutrients and nutrition that the steenbok is providing them with. I don't think the leopard's going to be too concerned by the fact that there's ants sharing her meal with her. They're going to create a minuscule dent in the amount of meat. What's really cool is if we take a look further down this marula tree, I'm just admiring what a perfect tree this is for her to have ascended. It's just kind of branches off from the ground at about a 45-degree angle. But if we look above my finger there, we can actually see a little blob or smearing of blood from when she hoisted that kill up the tree. That must have been a really cool thing to see, and you'll probably find that she may have fed on the kill for a little bit below the tree, or maybe even where she caught it, before dragging it to this perfect tree to hoist up and therefore leave safely out of the reach of hyena. Lions would very easily be able to climb this tree and get to the meat, but hyena definitely not. Now, one thing that could be the case that we've kind of overlooked, or at least I've overlooked, is that maybe Tingana's made this kill and he's just lying up in a bush somewhere nearby where we can't see. You know, they can be very well camouflaged. He may have gone for a drink somewhere and then be lying up there. So I just want to cover that option as well. Eric, you're wondering if there's any parts of a kill that the leopards will not like to feed on, and basically just the kind of bony areas, the big bones that they cannot crunch through will be the areas that they leave, but the rest of the meaty areas will all be consumed. And it's something like a steenbok, a small antelope like this, they'll eat the ears, they'll eat a lot of the nose, possibly even crunch through the skull. So time will tell. Like I said, I'm not going anywhere. I think we've got to really invest some time in the hope that Thandi does come back and take us back to her den thereafter. Very good. Well, while Senzo and I get comfortable here, you guys are going to have a change of scenery on the vehicle with Noel.
Well, Scott, I'm hoping you're fine. You're fine. I can't speak English. I'm hoping that you find the leopard who made that steamboat kill, and I am also hoping that it's Thandi, and that we get to figure out exactly where she's hiding. But Tingana would be nice to see as well, and also Shadow and her youngster we have not seen in a while. Although the last update I had on Shadow and her youngster was that she was back in Little Gowrie. It's not entirely impossible that she hasn't moved back up, but yeah, I think I've been thinking about it after that scrap that she had with Thandi the other day. and how there's this funny void with the bit of territory that's been left open from Kruger. I have a feeling that Shadow might choose to go a little bit more into Little Gowrie than onto Djuma, but it's just a feeling. There's no definites there at all. So Ferg and I are going to head over west and see if, with this now very cold weather, if the wild dogs feel like coming back from the west and moving east where we can see them. And also, of course, keeping our eyes out for lions and elephants and buffalo and anything else that happens to pop up. We haven't seen a giraffe in a while, amazingly enough. So a giraffe would be nice. I feel like I haven't seen a giraffe in like 2 weeks. I know we see them in the Mara often, but yeah, I don't think I've gone this long for a long time without seeing giraffe. Also keeping my eye out for Kachava as well, especially along this little stretch of road. Although again, she tends to be a little bit farther, sort of Chitwa and Little Gowrie side. I haven't actually seen her over the Gowrie, our southern. She can't, but I just personally haven't seen her do that. A little bit bumpy, a little bit corrugated here. Diana, you would like to know how big of an area cats hunt in. Diana, it is so variable. It's dependent upon the individual. It's dependent upon the individual's core territory. It's the size of that, as well as the size of the home range. It has to do with how many resources are available, and also the number of other individuals of their same species are around, and that denotes how large their core territory and home range are. And so it's very, very different. In an area like this, the territories for leopards tend to be a little bit smaller, just because the population densities are high. Same with lions. In other areas with less abundant resources, the territories will be much larger. The hunting areas will be much larger, and that can change. It can change over the Sabi Sands area into Kruger, just to our east. It'll change from there, and then up north into the Timbavat and Klasiri. It's all relative, but it's usually with any spatial distribution of any organism, the resources available is usually what dictates the size of their territory. So when you have abundant resources like we have here, an organism's territory doesn't need to be as large. When you have less abundant resources, then it has to be a lot larger so that they can cover a larger distance to be able to find the food that they need to. Good question. Just checking nicely inside these drainage lines as we meander past. There's a lot of nooks and crannies. It's important that I keep my eyes out and about and peeled. Oh, our vulture has decided to move a little bit. He was farther into the bushes earlier, and now he's sitting quite nicely on top of this dead leadwood tree. There we go. Little white-backed vulture. Not flying up yet. It is definitely not warm enough for those thermals to be off the ground. And such a large bird, he needs those thermals to be able to go looking for food. And him sitting there doesn't mean that there's anything that's dead under there for him to eat. It just means that it's where he's perched. It's not where he rested for last night. As I said earlier, when we came past, he was in a little bit of a different area. I can hear oxpecker's alarm calling. It's probably some impala, maybe some kudu around. Can we hear them? Very nice. And then some of them have gone and landed underneath where that vulture is. There's also some starlings around that vulture and a yellow-billed hornbill. There's actually one starling peeking through that little hole. Shame. So that starling will be a hole nester, very similar to the hornbills, and a dead leadwood tree like this has wonderful holes for it to nest inside. Now you'll notice how small the feathers on top of that vulture's head are. That has to do with the fact that they are actually quite cleanly birds. They don't like to be very dirty, and so having small feathers there means that when they stick their heads into carcasses that they're busy devouring, not too much gunk gets stuck in there. You can see that sharp beak for tearing the flesh off. Very important. They're basically garbage disposals of the bush themselves, and hyenas do a very good job of maintaining the health of an environment. So let's say a species dies from something like anthrax or tuberculosis. The vulture population and the spotted hyena population cannot get anthrax or tuberculosis, and so when they pick apart the carcasses, and they do it when their population numbers are high enough and they do it in a timely manner, it means that it's less likely for other predators who are able to get those diseases for them to get it. They're a very important part of what happens out here in the bush. All right, let's keep on carrying on. That was a nice little break there. We're just going to get out of the way of another game drive vehicle who I'm assuming is probably going to have a look at Husana, so we'll just move off the road slightly here while they pass us, and also wave and say good morning. Hello everyone, morning, how are you? They're definitely going to go see Husana, and I'm pretty sure I know that guy that just passed us there, and I'm trying to remember where I know him from. And yes, we do run into a lot of people that we know. It is a small industry, especially after you've been in the industry for quite a while. It's a very small industry, and you do bump into people all the time that you met 10 years ago, and you're like, oh my goodness, you're here now, or, you know, that you happen to see in town from time to time whenever we make it out of the bush and into town. David, interesting question. Would a vulture eat a dead vulture? I actually have never seen a vulture eating a dead vulture. I would assume that yes, they would, but I have a feeling that it would be something more like a hyena and a jackal attempting that. But that's a very, very good question. We're gonna actually have to, unless there's someone who's seen a vulture eating a dead vulture, we might just have to wait and have it happen so that we can actually see for ourselves. Can't say that it's out of the realm of possibilities at all. Very interesting thought. We might go through a little bit of signal breakup here, everybody, so sorry if it does happen. There's a funny, it doesn't have to do really with the dip, it has to do with the vegetation around here, but it does happen from time to time. Kobe! Yes, I'm digging your questions today, my friend. Keep them coming. Kobe, I don't know. I haven't heard about Mvula since a week before I went on leave. I do think when I was on leave that there was some word of him somewhere, not on Djuma, but somewhere. I don't know where he is. I miss him. He's such a beautiful male. Beautiful male leopard. So I'm hoping he pops up soon, though his territory has shrunk considerably. So I don't know if he'll be gracing us with his presence as often anymore. I feel like a lot of the places where we usually see him on Djuma have been occupied quite a bit by Tingana, which would mean that Mvula isn't necessarily going to come down and interact. Sorry about the signal issues, everybody. It happens. Also have a change in the weather. It's very cold now. I'm missing my jersey. Alright, let's head on over to Scott. He wants to check out and see if she might have gone back to places previously seen. And I'm crossing fingers and holding thumbs that it happens and we get her.
Yes, we're going to head back to one of the den sites where we've probably spent the most time with her. There's two spots that she used just down in the riverbed ahead of us to stash her little cub. One was in kind of the cave in the riverbank, and the other was in a fallen down knobthorn tree. There was quite a big cavity in that tree. So maybe we'll get lucky. Chitty Chatty Megs, you'd like to know, do cheetah ever put their kills in trees? Not that I've ever heard of. They're not the greatest of climbers, and are not known for doing that. So usually what cheetah will do is just try and drag their kills under a bush to prevent vultures catching wind of the situation, because once vultures swoop down onto the scene, if there's enough of them, they could possibly overwhelm a single cheetah. But what's more likely is that lions or hyena will see all those vultures plummeting out of the sky and then run into that area and steal the kill from the cheetah. It's just the leopards that are the experts of hoisting. Lions and cheetah are both quite kind of similar in the fact that they'll sometimes try and hide their kills under bushes from vultures, but that's as good as it gets for them. Please, may we be lucky. Come on. We will know shortly if we're in luck. We are arriving on the scene of the old den sites, one of which was in this log to our right. The cavity is just on the other side of that log that we've seen the little cub crawling out of. No immediate sign of any leopard here. So let's keep going forward. Mom could be lying about. There's lots of little hiding places here, and the other spot that she used was just up ahead of us to the left. This is where there's a little bit of a cave in the bank of this riverbed. Just need to go up through here. We go all the way around, just make sure she's not around there. The tricky thing is that if she is around here, she can disappear entirely into the cavity in the riverbed. But usually we found her lying up just outside. Let's take a closer look in there. Nothing at first glance. And I fear that she may, well, not be here anymore. Ooh, that looked like it could have been her. Just a tuft of grass though. Oh. Okay, let's just double check the log now. Such a lovely spot, this for a den. She's used a host of different kind of dens, a few caves and riverbanks, a dead tree with this cavity in it, as well as initially a termite mound that we saw disappearing down entirely. This was probably my favorite spot though. It's that tiny little black hole that you can see where we saw the cub first poking its head out of. No joy. So I think we'll need to now just head back to the kill and get comfortable and start the stakeout. Having had a closer look at the kill and where it had been fed on, it looks like she wouldn't have left it too recently, so I'm guessing she may have made the kill in the very early hours of this morning, maybe at 1 or 2 o'clock after Tingana would have passed, because had Tingana have been there or walked past and been in that general area when he passed at about 11 p.m. last night, I'm sure he would have got wind of it. So I'm guessing it was after Tingana passed, but not incredibly fresh, because I can see the meat is discolored and started going a kind of dark blackish color. So she in my opinion wouldn't have left the kill very, very recently. There's a few pearl-spotted owlets calling. There's two. One behind us and one up ahead of us to the right. And a few Cape turtle doves also calling. Kukuru, kukuru. And I'm desperately scanning for any sign of this little pearl-spotted owlet. They are tiny, and not seeing anything. I think it was a little bit kind of further into these thickets that we're looking towards now. So we shall continue. Mindwarp, you'd like to know if I've got any intelligence who has taken over Salayeshe's territory. Firstly, if you don't mind telling me what's happened to Salayeshe or where she's gone. She's a leopard that I don't think we ever saw, but was on the property where Tristan spent a lot of time before joining Safari Live, to the west of us. And I don't have a clue what's going on over there, sadly. So I cannot be of any assistance. I remember when I was here about a year and a half ago, just before I left, the guys across on Arathusa and Sibambili, the properties where Salayeshe used to live, because I'm guessing she's no longer living there, if you're wondering who's in her territory, and the guys used to have lots of wonderful sightings of her and her cub. You'd often hear them getting called in on the radio, sadly not in an area where we could spend time. Karen, thanks for updating me that Salayeshe has died a few months ago. I wonder if anyone knows how she died, or if she just disappeared like Kruger did. Always sad when you lose a leopard, especially if they're not old. I don't think Salayeshe was necessarily an old female, but I guess the reality is that they do come unstuck with other male leopards, or sometimes lions get a hold of them. Wonderful. Well, thanks for that update, everyone. And if I do hear any updates of who's moving in that area, I'll be sure to let you know. But we don't really chat with those guys too often. Or at least I don't. Great. We shall send you back to Noel to see what she is getting up to.
Scott, I am up to Bumbling. We're again still looking for tracks of anything that might be out and about. I know that some of you asked for some dwarf mongoose. I actually amazingly have not seen dwarf mongoose this morning. And I'm just hoping that maybe these wild dogs pop up. I'm also hoping that when Scott gets back to that steenbok in a tree, that whatever leopard happened to make that its meal is around and showing its face. Now, there's a couple of large termite mounds here, sorry for the bumps, that usually house some nice business of dwarf mongoose. But it's a little bit chilly, so they might still be warming themselves up inside. Have to wait and see. We might get lucky. This is near the area where Senzo and I had the dwarf mongoose, black mamba interaction. That was so much, that was just epic. It's incredible. Although poor Sens was doing the snake heebie-jeebie dance for a while after that. Very funny weather today. It really can't make up its mind. Julia, you would like to know if there's parrots in Africa. Julia, there are parrots in Africa. Different parts of Africa have different types of parrots. The parrot that we see the most here is a brown-headed parrot. Every now and then, a little bit farther north from us, you'll get mares, and then farther north still, you'll get gray-headed parrots. But we do get them. Fruit eaters. Ferg and I managed to get one on camera the other day. We hear them often when we're out on drive like this, but to get them to sit still long enough for us to show them to you is a little bit tricky. Oh, we've got buntings. They're in the road. There's two of them. There's one quite close to the car, and there's one, oh no, they've both flown off farther down. There we go, little, gorgeous. Looks like little, oh, hold on, Noelle, before you say too much. There was buntings flying, but then just now, I thought I also saw an eclipse plumage wida. And now everybody's gone. There, that one that just flew off there was the one that gave me pause. So eclipse plumage is male birds that come out of their breeding colors and then into sort of their non-breeding colors without their long tails. But I'm pretty sure it's still a bunting. Oh man. There were buntings here. There were cinnamon-breasted buntings flying around. This one here is just throwing me for a little bit of a loop. I want to see if I can get a little bit closer. It's hard because the sky is really blown out, so it's difficult to get the colorations. Please don't fly away. Keep hopping around on that branch that you're doing that on. Thank you. He's hunting in a spider web. Lynn and Sherry, you're saying that they remind you of sparrows. Yeah, they're both seed eaters, very similar body shape, and sometimes some similar colorations. Do you know what I actually think it is now that it just flew down and the color's a little bit better? It might be a young golden-breasted bunting, and that's why the coloration's a little bit off. Ooh, and then Ferg has a blue waxbill on camera. Thanks, Ferg. While I was busy trying to ID that bird. It's frustrating is not the right word. It's annoying when you see a bird and then you're pretty positive what it is, and then it keeps moving and you can't get the right colors. Remember, most of the bird books we use, even if you use a bird book with photographs in it, birds have variations. And then as well in the field guides we use, they have drawings, so there's a lot of differences there. Nikki, I don't know if they were eating the ants just that side. It's entirely possible. We can creep up on them a little bit more. I know a lot of seed-eating birds that usually just eat seeds. If there's an abundance of a protein species like termites on the ground, that they'll still go after them from time to time. But there's also a lot of seed and leaf litter that's around here. We've got them just ahead of us now on the side there, and we'll have a better look for everybody. They're very busy, that's for sure. I have a feeling that they're picking up bits of seeds that have blown off with the rain and the wind and sort of washed away from what I can see there. I'm not sure if any of you are seeing anything different on screen. That's what it would seem to be for me. But that one's definitely getting an insect there. Did you see that? That's definitely getting an insect. So they're getting a little bit of protein in their diet today. Now the cinnamon-breasted bunting has landed behind our wax bills down the road a little bit. It is a bit far off. We might be able... There we go. So not the same one we were looking at earlier, but there we go. There's that cinnamon-breasted bunting. Chickpea and Perry are saying the ants look huge. Yeah, our zoom's good, hey? What did you say yesterday for 20 times optical zoom? 20 times optical zoom. And also they're tiny little birds, so the ants will look huge. These birds could sit in the palm of your hand very comfortably. They're tiny. Teeny, teeny, tiny. So when ants get out on the road like you just saw now and are sort of everywhere, usually means it's going to rain. And they're busy cleaning out their hives and looking for food. Ooh. Joy in Hong Kong, you're wondering if I managed to ID that bird that we saw late in the Sunset Drive yesterday. Joy in Hong Kong, when I was looking at it, I was saying to me if I had to hazard a guess, it would have been a female redback shrike. And I asked James Richard to just triple check, and he would also say that it was a female redback shrike. So Joy, we went with female redback shrike. It looked a little bit, it threw me for a little bit of a loop. Which happens. You have good birding days and you have birding days where you doubt yourself, or you just get something that is so off the wall. You're like, I have no idea what that is. Although I have a couple of friends who are incredible birders and never have off days. And they are, yes, what they know is inside their heads is absolutely amazing. Brandon, you want to know if there's any birds that migrate from the States to Africa. Brandon, off the top of my head, I can't think of any. I don't know if Scott can maybe think of any. I know a lot of our migrants come from Europe and from Asia. And I'm wondering if, I feel like in the back of my head, I'm wondering if there's a bird species that's coming down from the northern part of North America and then coming around and doing this. Brandon, off the top of my head, I honestly can't think of something just now. I can go and have a look, or maybe Scott will know. We can ask him when we see him again. Cool question. Nature Able, you want to know if I've ever seen a woodland kingfisher nest? I haven't. Hey, a lot of the kingfishers do hole nesting in banks of rivers and sides of dams and things like that. But I actually have not seen nesting woodland kingfisher. Steph and I were talking about this, yes, weeks and weeks and weeks ago. We were on walk and we had a flowering combretum, and Steph was saying I can't even remember if he's ever smelled a flowering combretum, and I was sitting there thinking, yes, but I've barely ever even seen a flowering combretum, and they're trees that are around often. And then a woodland kingfisher is around often, but I can't honestly say to you that I have seen them nesting, like physically where their nest is. So it's an interesting question. I have to follow some around. They're always so busy with their mating display behavior. Again, we can also ask Scott. Maybe he's seen. I was saying several drives ago I'd never seen mating hyenas. They're quite secretive about it. And then I think it was VM was telling me that he'd seen mating hyenas when he was up in the Mara. So you get scenarios where I have friends that have worked in the industry for 20-25 years and never seen a pangolin. I've been very lucky and seen several. So I'm sure someone has seen a woodland nesting, but not myself. Alright, Scott's gone back to that Steenbok kill, so let's go back to him for an update.
Yes, we are back at the kill, just waiting patiently for the leopard who killed it to return. I've been thinking if it was Tingana, he was quite hungry when we saw him late yesterday evening, and a big male like him would have been able to consume the majority of this kill in one sitting. So that's what's leading me to think that it is a female, whether it was Shadow, who's fed on this kill for a little bit and headed back to collect her cub, or whether it was Tundi, who's headed back to her den sites. We cannot be certain. The only way to know is to sit and wait and see who returns. It could be a long wait, but I think it's definitely going to be worthwhile, because I'm hoping that we get a better idea of where in fact her new den is. I'm hoping it's in an area where we can actually get to with the vehicle. There is a chance that it will be in an area where we just cannot access. Now, I'm told you were discussing migratory birds with Noel, and if any birds migrate from America into Africa. Not that I know of. It would be a serious feat for them to make it all the way across the Atlantic. So I don't know of any birds that do that. And I also don't know the whereabouts of any woodlands kingfisher nests. I've actually had not the best run regarding nest finding. I used to fancy myself as a decent nest finder, but these days, or at least the last month, haven't managed to find too many. Haven't found any hornbill nests or any woodlands kingfishers nests, any lilac-breasted rollers nests. Those ones are usually the easiest ones to find, because once they've got chicks, they fly into trees with insects. So if you ever see a bird flying with an insect in its beak at this time of the year, it's usually taking it towards its chicks. So if you can follow them, you can often work out where the nest is. Whereas ordinarily when birds make kills, they will gobble them up there where they catch them, so that no other birds can steal them. So that's when they don't have any chicks. The only nests, yeah, we found a francolin nest, which I was hoping on monitoring, but we went back to it a few days after first finding it, and there was not a sign left that there was even a nest there. So I'm guessing a monitor lizard may have had a delicious meal of 6 or 7 francolin's eggs. And what other nests have we seen? There was a chagra nest that was also only active for a day or two, and then when we went back there was no sign of any eggs in it. And what I've learnt with most of the birds that nest, especially in just kind of a regular cup nest, not within the cavity of a tree or down on the ground like the francolin, is so often their nests will be either raided and the eggs will be eaten before the chicks even hatch, or in strong windy weather and storms the eggs will get blown out of the nests, or sometimes the chicks. But it seems like it's not an easy business for the birds with their nests. I think a lot of the time they lose their youngsters often before they've even hatched, which is a pity, because it makes our lives tricky with regards to trying to keep you guys up to date with any nests. Wouldn't it be nice to know exactly what went down here? Because I think the time frame that this kill was made, together with the fact that Tingana was in the area and definitely would have stolen this kill had he have known it was here, all makes me wonder what exactly went down. Like I said a bit earlier, the rear end of this steenbok has been fed on, and the meat that has been fed on and kind of left exposed has started going kind of a dark red, blackish color, which indicates that it's been exposed to the air for a little bit of time. It's not incredibly fresh in terms of when it was last chewed on, so it could have been a couple of hours that Tundi has been away, or Shadow, from this kill. But very, very good prospects for later on. I'm still astounded by the people who found this kill. They did a really good job in spotting it, because there's just that kind of pale coloration that indicates that there's that it's there. There was no legs or limbs dangling down from the tree, so it definitely wasn't an easy spot. And we needed that stroke of fortune, because this could become instrumental with finding and seeing Tundi's little cub again. Shamson, you wondering if baboons would ever chase a leopard off a kill and then steal it? I'm sure, yes, it has happened. It's not something that I've ever seen, but it must be said that baboons can and will very often overpower leopards and chase them away. Some of you guys would have had an incredible sighting. I don't know who it was with. It could have been, was it Shadow or Karula, that some baboons were chasing through the bush not too long ago. Or it could have even been Tundi, I'm told, but we do have some incredible footage of this leopard being chased by a big troop of baboons. It's interesting how the tables can turn depending on which area you're in. In some parts of Africa, leopards will actively hunt baboons. But here in the Sabi Sands, I've noticed very few occasions have I ever seen baboon kills with leopards, and more often than not, when you do see the two species together, it's the baboons giving the leopard a hard time. And I guess that's possibly because leopard have just got better options here in terms of food, so they don't need to take the risk of hunting baboons, and then over time baboons have kind of realized that they've got the upper hand over the leopard. Wonderful. I'm hoping it stays nice and cloudy today for my stakeout. I'm going to go back for breakfast and then come back and sit here until hopefully a leopard comes back. Because it is cool, there is a decent chance that she will come back during the course of the day and not necessarily wait for it to cool down this evening. Christine and Topmod, you wondering if there's any chance of vultures spotting this kill and then coming and snacking on it. I think it's going to be quite tricky for a vulture and or a bateleur to see this kill. Generally they're flying quite high above the trees, and therefore the canopy of the tree will often prevent them from seeing what's lying in the branches below. Although this tree is fairly kind of out in the open, there's at least where the kill is lying, so there is a chance of it happening. But usually you tend to find small kills like this, if they are hoisted out in a spot like they are now, they will seldom get found by vultures or bateleurs. Or tawny eagles are another one. There's a number of scavenging raptors that will gladly feast on this kill. But as a general rule, it doesn't really happen too often. If it was lying out on the ground, out in the open, then it would be a lot easier for them to spot them from way up in the sky. But I don't think the leopard runs any risk of losing this. Thanks very much to Jared's buddy, who's confirmed exactly who was involved in that baboon event that I was telling you about now. And it was Tundi who was trying to escape with Tumba, who is now, I think, a 3-year-old male. So thank you very much for that update. That must have been a very, very scary moment. I can't remember who was guiding. I think it could have been Jamie who was in that scene. Dina Minter-Grace, you'd like to know if there's any big cats here on the reserve that will scavenge and not hunt. Well, yes, all of the big cats will scavenge as and when they can. Male leopards will scavenge from females, lions will scavenge from all leopards. So basically I think scavenging in nature is kind of accepted, and whoever's biggest and strongest will scavenge from those that are weaker and smaller than them. So I don't think there's any cats that are relying entirely on scavenging, but a lot of them will make the most of any opportunities where they can bully other predators off their prey. It'd be interesting to know how many kills male leopards scavenge from their girlfriends. I think we'd be surprised as to how often that happens when we're not around. Alrighty, well, we're going to continue to sit and wait here patiently, and you guys are heading off on a birdwatching session with Noel.
We have a southern black tit that is sitting really nicely in this tree. They usually sort of flit about and hide in the thickness. So I'm glad that it's out and about and preening for us, so we can all get a very beautiful view. A little bit of white on the wing there, but mostly black. Tiny little beak for eating insects. And usually its partners around as well, but I've only just seen the one. There we go, that's that flitting behavior we were talking about, moving very quickly and then going down into the thick scrub. There was also a common scimitar bill around, but unfortunately it's flown off. And then we've got some very, very sleepy gnus sitting here and resting and ruminating. A gnu or a wildebeest. You can see the chewing of the cud there. And no luck so far with any wild dog tracks, or lion, or leopard, or buffalo, or elephant. But we did get our beautiful Husana this morning, so that's alright. Yeah, exactly, Nikki. It's Nikki's saying animals in general. Yeah, it's been, look, Husana was brilliant, and we've got Scott with that steamboat kill, but it has been a little bit of a quiet morning, and that has to do with the weather that's been happening yesterday morning and then this morning as well. When the rain comes, everything really starts to spread out quite a bit, and so we get these funny little gaps. But again, if we take over the past couple weeks, if we take everything into consideration, we've had some epic game viewing. And this is why I always recommend for anyone that's going to visit sub-Saharan Africa on safari, don't do 2 nights at a place. If you, let's say you only have 8 nights that you can do for safari, or 7 nights for safari, either do 7 nights all one place, or do 4 nights and then 3 nights. Because the longer you spend in a place, the more you'll get to see, and so you'll have an off sort of #quiet morning. I meant slash, sorry everybody. It's also just one of those mornings. Weather like this, sunshine makes everybody happy and perky, and cloudy weather like this makes everyone want to cuddle under the duvet and watch series or movies, even these wildebeest. My brain has shut off a little bit, I'm sorry about that. So yeah, so it makes it easier. So let's say you say 4 nights at a place, that's 8 game drives. And so maybe 1, maybe 2 out of those 8 might be a little bit quieter, but the rest of them, as long as you're picking good destinations, are going to be chock block full. It's amazing, especially if it's your first time on safari. You get a lot of ooh, Melanie Hall, new viewer. Welcome, Melanie Hall. Yes, you can ask questions. Of course you can. Send your questions and comments through. We're live and interactive. As you can tell, I'm talking to you now. So yeah, send those questions through. So when it is your first time on safari and you're out and about and you've been seeing all these amazing things that you've just been dreaming about, it actually takes a while to process. So game drives like this morning, where it's a little bit quieter, a little bit more low-key, actually helps you process a lot of the information you've been getting from your guide, as well as being able to just sort of enjoy and smell and listen and feel and sort of immerse yourself a little bit more, because it is extremely exciting seeing leopard and lion and elephant and rhino and buffalo and all of these things for the first time. And when you're in an area like we're in here and you're getting a constant stream of these wonderful sightings, it is a little bit overwhelming. All right, let's see if we can move a little bit forward without these wildebeest running away. So Sorry, Nikki, just send through the question one more time. Laura, you're curious to know if wildebeest can close their nostrils like camels can. Not as far as I know, Laura, but it's not something I've heard of with them. I do know that they get these little things called nasal botflies that fly up their nose, and if they don't snort enough and sort of shake their head enough, they can fly up into the brain and it causes some damage. So with that in mind, it makes me feel like they can't close their nostrils like a camel can. I'm assuming a camel can close their nostrils like they do because of the environment that they live in with sort of sandstorms and things like that. That would be my guess. But without knowing more about it, that's the only way I really know how to answer that. But again, it's something we can look up. I'm looking at their noses now, not really seeing. I feel like it's just open. It's an interesting thought. Vegas Beauty Snob, you would like to know if there's an animal from the States that I miss. No, not really. I was really lucky where I grew up and also where I went to university. We had a lot of wildlife around. Black bears, and there were grizzly bears when I went to university, and we had moose when I was growing up as a kid, and coy dogs and things like that. And they're super interesting. But no, I'm good with the African wildlife. I was gonna say I miss my dog. I had a dog for many years. He's passed away. I miss him a little bit. But yeah, other than that, no, I'm good with the African wildlife, I think. Although I have friends, South African friends, who desperately want to go back and see bears and moose. So it would be interesting to go back and see those creatures with my friends and see it through their eyes. That would be an interesting thought. I've got such a big thing for lions, hey? And there's no lion. Well, look, there's mountain lions in parts of the States. I haven't seen a mountain lion, but there's nothing like a big, beautiful male African lion. And unfortunately, they don't live that side. Not free roaming, at least. All right, let's head back over to Scott, and I'm hoping that he gets a little bit of last-minute leopard action with that kill.
Well, yes, me too. Thanks, Noel. But I don't know if we are going to get lucky. I think if this leopard does return, it's maybe going to be kind of towards mid-morning or later this evening. But I just really am thinking about planning my stakeout attack. Debbie, you'd like to know how does one amuse themselves while sitting at a stakeout? It's a good question. It's a good time to check up on emails and get a bit of admin done. We've spent a lot of time sitting with animals, especially whilst we were up in the Masai Mara. We spent, Nikki's just saying liar to me through the radio, saying I don't ever check my emails, which is partly true. I'm just talking on behalf of everyone. I'm not a big fan of the email. But yeah, editing photos. When I was up in the Mara, when we did some seriously long stints there, I'd take my computer out and have everything set up, edit a few pictures, play with some videos, talk rubbish with the cameraman, sleep. So yeah, twiddle one's thumbs, just enjoy the scenery. So yeah, there's not a huge amount, I guess, to do other than kind of things that are on a phone. Catch up with friends is often what I do, take that time to do that. So yeah, that is the plan. Now ML, you'd like to know if anyone's going to be bringing me some surveillance donuts and coffee. What I am going to do, we're very close to camp here. We're just a few minutes away from camp. So what I'm going to do is head back to camp and then have some breakfast and then come back out here. I don't think we are going to miss out on too much while we're gone. What I want to do is pull out an essential tool for when one has a stakeout. That's an umbrella, because we don't have a roof, because it does get very hot during the day. What I may do is pop this up and sit like this to keep the shade over me. That's what I did the other day when I sat with who did I sit with? I sat with Tundi and Shadow for quite a while they were thinking about what to do when Shadow had that kill. So I was sitting there with an umbrella to keep the sun off me. So this is a useful tool when doing a stakeout. Even though it's cloudy now, the sun could pop out at any stage, and already it is warming up a little bit. So I got the old brolly ready, and yeah. Jacqueline, you'd like to know if I can smell the kill from where we are. I can't, and it's a very, very still morning. I'm not even sure which way the wind is blowing, but even when we drove around earlier, I didn't get any whiffs of it. It's still fresh though, so it's not going to be a nasty smell. It would just smell kind of meaty. But no, I haven't got any scent of the carcass just yet, thankfully. Nor have any hyena, because they would be lurking patiently, hoping for any little bits to drop down. So all in all, there's not too much that knows about this, just us and the leopard, I think, at this stage. Cheryl, you're wondering if the full moon could affect the animals and their behavior. Definitely. It's going to make the herbivores and prey animals a lot more comfortable at night because they can see further, and it's going to make the life of the predators more difficult because it's more tricky to sneak up on their prey because there's not really cover of darkness. You know, we can drive around at the moment even though the moon isn't full. Even from once the moon is half full, you can drive around here without any headlights on and see where you're going without a problem. And as the moon obviously gets brighter towards full moon, then it becomes even easier to see. So yeah, I guess, you know, some of the predators may be more inclined to fail on hunts, and some predators, maybe, you know, cheetah and wild dog that ordinarily don't move too much at night, may be moving more when there is a full moon. Just giving a friendly wave to the people who found this kill. They've come back after fixing their flat tire for an update on the situation. It's such a pity the ground is so hard because after the rain we got yesterday morning, because that really would be a great opportunity now to try and follow the tracks of the leopard that made this kill to wherever she was going, just to get a better idea of where the den might be. But it's going to be incredibly tricky with the solidified ground. I can hear some squirrels alarm calling behind us. Who knows, maybe, just maybe, the leopard is on the way back for another snack. Not convinced that is the case, but it could be. The reason why I'm not convinced is that squirrels will alarm call at just about anything that could eat them, which includes snakes, birds of prey, leopard, lion. But it is always just worth keeping in mind all the little clues that we're getting from the bush. Debbie, you suggesting we should bring along some board games for the stakeouts. That would be good. It would also be a good opportunity to bring some books to do some studying. So I think that's what I'll do. I've got some wonderful insect books that Tristan's lent me, and I've been a little bit naughty with my homework the last few weeks. The first 2 weeks when I arrived back here I was quite diligent, but the last few weeks have been in holiday mode ish, I guess, because it is the festive season, so we've kind of just been enjoying ourselves. whilst working. Alright everyone, well, it seems like the sunrise safari is coming to a close. Thank you very much for joining in. This afternoon you'll be glad to know that there will be 4 feeds out, 2 here and 2 up in the Masai Mara in Kenya. And of course we've got this incredible opportunity where I'm almost convinced we will see a leopard at some point this evening. Whether or not that leopard is Tundi and whether or not she brings us back to her den site thereafter, only time will tell, but some stuff definitely to look forward to. And a massive thanks to Nikki, who directed the show, our tech team who managed to make all these parts come together and send these pictures to you guys all around the world, and to Senzo on camera. Well done everybody. Enjoy the last few seconds. Goodbye.